This episode of Empty Betters is brought to you by DraftKings. The NBA 82 game grid is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40 or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 258 of Empty Betters. Welcome to our Eastern Conference Round 1 preview for the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my fellow Caps fan who is so anxiously donning that white Skriegel at this moment if you're not watching on YouTube. Nick Manella, how you doing, my friend?
Oh yeah, we're not too anxious just yet, but trust me, talk to me on like Monday afternoon. We'll definitely be there. But yeah, Ted, if you're watching this, I mean, what are you doing, bud? Come on. Get him through the playoffs. This is how you do it. So whenever he's ready to listen to some reason, I'm right here.
And then I'm going to toss it across the screen to my other co-host who looks like he's rocking some type of former locker room, maybe old school cap shirt, Mac Vogel up in Wisco. What's going on, my friend?
Yeah, it's just a nice little workout shirt I got when I was on the Caps during the year of the Stadium Series. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. Now, I love what you said, Nick, about talk to me Monday afternoon. I can already feel like that just like it's 1 p.m. I just got back from my lunch break at work,
Yep.
and I just can't think about anything other than 6 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, it's gonna be a long couple of hours leading up to that puck drop, but. Right now I'm chilling. I'm just excited and excited for another breakdown. I love these episodes. These are like some of my favorite ones to record every year.
Yeah, these are absolutely they're crazy, but they're fun crazy. And I think we could kind of say that about the like the season preview episodes we used to do, but these ones just kind of mean a little bit more, because it's the postseason. But yeah, that like waiting around for like the playoff game for like your hockey team in the Stanley Cup playoffs, especially when you know it's a big one, is kind of like the most fucked up form of torture because you spend all day sitting there and for like a while you're thinking about all the ways it could go good and like all the awesome things that could happen. And then right around like 3 or 4 p.m. that, oh wait, they could lose sets in. And then it's just a downward spiral from there. So yeah, I don't know why we do this to ourselves every year, but fired up to do it again one more
Well, and I
time.
feel like I kind of didn't even get that feeling last year just because they were like I kind of knew we were going to lose every single one of those games.
It was
I
like
mean,
UMBC going into March Madness. It's like whatever happens, happens, you know?
yeah, like I definitely talked myself into some sort of optimism about like a couple of those games, but for the most part, I wasn't even really like nervous because I was just like,
Right.
okay, like whatever. But no, these ones, I'm gonna be real nervous.
Yeah.
So
And deservedly so. Before we get into the previews, this is a reminder to everyone, and we've had a few people tweet at us about this. We are going to be doing our NHL playoff bracket challenge once again. Stay tuned for details. We will put the details on our Instagram and Twitter. The day you're listening to this should be Friday, April 18th. We should have the bracket challenge up by then. We'll, let you guys know what the awards are, what we have to do to qualify, and all that good stuff. We'll give you the password. So that's always fun every year. And if you're not watching on YouTube, strongly encourage you to do so. We'll have all of our series breakdowns individually videoed over there, as well as our Stanley Cup final predictions. And we'll be doing that through all of the playoffs. So go follow, or I guess subscribe to us over there, like all the videos, and comment anything that you think we say is outrageous, because that seems to be a trend on TikTok here as of late. So. Let's do a quick league news and then we'll get right into it. We'll start off with the Caps. They signed center Nick Dowd to a 2-year contract extension with a 3 mil AAV. 34 years old. I believe he's been a Cap for 7 seasons, if I heard Carbs right in that video.
That
So
is correct.
I gotta imagine you guys are pumped.
Yeah, I thought the interesting part of that video was Carbs basically said it's good that this guy is going to get to retire as a Capital. So I think that sort of puts us into the frame of reference for where Dowder is in his career. And I mean, you know, I've said for so many years this guy's the best fourth line center in the NHL, and he's just one of the smartest hockey players I've ever seen. He makes everyone around him so much better, and he's a fan favorite for a reason. We absolutely love that guy.
Yeah, I was super pumped to hear about this one. He's got some sneaky skill too. Like I feel like he's good for at least like 3 or 4 goals a year where you're like, "Oh my God, like wait, that was Dowd. Holy shit." Like he'll rip a couple. So and just an all-time like guy to have around the team too. You guys have met him, I've met him, great guy. So all around good news.
The Jets, they signed blue liner Neil Pionk to a 6-year extension, $42 million total. That comes out to 7 mil AAV. 29-year-old has 10 goals and 29 assists through 69 games this season on the President's Trophy winning Jets. So that's obviously good news here for Winnipeg. I'd imagine he's pretty fired up going into round one here.
Yeah, it's a good move for them. Just smart defenseman right there.
And Nick, I am giving you the right to change your round one Colorado Dallas pick before the games start because we are recording this before round one kicks off. But this just came over, and unfortunately, we didn't find this out until after we recorded our Western Conference preview. But Jason Robertson of Dallas suffered a lower body injury in the final regular season game of the season for Dallas in Nashville on Wednesday. He was seen leaving with a brace on his right knee. So first Heiskanen and now potentially J-Rob. Do you want to change your pick, Nick?
Guys, it took like 2 hours for that to just get completely blown up. Isn't that incredible? Like as soon as I make the pick, it's like, okay, of course he gets hurt. You ask if I want to change, and like obviously me being me, I'm like, no, I don't. But my gut says I absolutely do. I'm not going to, but like no Robertson and no Heiskanen for that Stars team. I mean, if the Robertson thing is serious, oh boy, they're in some serious trouble because I don't necessarily know if Ottinger is going to be enough, and that decor without Heiskanen is going to be enough to carry that team. And sure, they've got other guys that can put the puck in the net, but I think J. Rob, just on the eye test alone from watching Stars game, it's not even necessarily the points he produces. It's sort of like Dubois, big guy, big body, goes into the corner, gets the puck for you, and can feed it out to Hintz or whoever else. So yeah, this is a huge blow for Dallas. I'm really interested to see what the timeline is here. I feel like we might get the usual like playoff smoke and mirrors and be like, oh, he's week to week, he's day to day, he's hour to hour, he's second to second. It's a lower like 95% of the body injury or some shit like that. So
Yeah, buckle up for basically no more information on injuries from here on out.
yes,
That's what we're gonna get. So
no, but I think this absolutely this now puts two teams for me on like total injury watch. And we're going to talk about one of them in a little bit. They're from the Sunshine State, but Dallas, and you can probably guess who the other team I'm alluding to is. It's like if they get anything more that goes wrong injury wise, you're probably hitting that panic button as a fan.
Yeah, like Max said, I think you said it perfectly. Like, tis the season where day to day, day to day, day to day. Meanwhile, they've got like IVs of stem cells crushing through this guy's veins, and it's like, all right, like what are we really talking about here? But
it's like Lavi always used to say, we're working through some things in the room.
yeah, yeah, I got Russian gas masks just cranking on level 10, but
Uh,
um Sucks for Dallas. If you're joining the bracket challenge, keep an eye on Nick's bracket. Make sure he doesn't sneak that Colorado pick in there because I gave him the chance. He didn't take it.
It's gonna fall so hard, boys. It's just gonna like it's gonna be so bad.
Oh man. All right, we're gonna get into the juicy stuff now, and this is where the fun begins because if you listen here, you probably know we're a little East Coast biased. Our favorite teams are in the Eastern Conference. We all reside in Central or Eastern time zones, so you get to catch more of the games. So this is gonna be a fun one. We're gonna kick off the East preview with the Carolina Hurricanes versus the New Jersey Devils. And if you would have told me after Rantanen left Carolina that they would be the largest round one favorite out of either conference, I probably would have said you're crazy, but that's the world we're in right now because they get a very decimated New Jersey Devils squad. We've got Carolina at minus 245 to win the series, and the Devils at plus 200 to pull off the upset here. Obviously, biggest news going into this, and it's not really news, we've all known for a while, Jack Hughes will not be dressing for New Jersey, so that's their best player out. Uh, Big reason why the odds are the way they are. And Carolina, they've had a whirlwind of a season. They have failed many, many times in the postseason over the last couple of seasons, and every year it feels like people have them as a sneaky cup pick. It's always a sexy pick preseason. So before we get into all the stats, do you think that this line that DraftKings has given us is fair?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not necessarily that high on the Devils. And I don't want to beat a dead horse here and shit on the Canes again for 45 minutes, but when I was doing a lot of the research for today's episode, I came across two to three things that I really think draw this series a little bit closer than people might be thinking.
Mac, what do you think? You think Devils are plus 200 actually?
I have been making a lot of jokes about the New Jersey Devils
It is pretty funny.
and saying that like I'm upset they even get to play in the postseason because they're not going to be able to do anything, yada yada yada. I do kind of agree with Nick that once I did some further depth research and actually looked at this matchup, it's not going to be as much of a blowout as I think. I do think that Carolina should be favored, probably not by that much. I think to answer your question, should be a little closer, but yeah, let's kind of get into Nick. I'm curious to hear what you think, why it should be a little closer.
I actually think you nailed it in one of our group chats earlier today. One of the three we have simultaneously going on every single day. I can't remember who was Instagram or Twitter, but you basically said like, "Oh, this report said that Carolina has better goaltending than New Jersey does." I could not disagree with that statement more. I understand that
Right.
Jacob Markstrom did not look great numbers wise when he came back from his knee injury. It's probably a good reason for that, and it's the fact that the Devils just fell off the face of the fucking planet and decided to
Yeah.
stop playing defense in front of him. So
Right.
I don't necessarily think those second half numbers are really that accurate. And I
Hmm.
know you could say, "Hey Nick, hey, those first half of the season numbers are probably not accurate because it's not the playoffs." And I would say that's a great point too. But I think when I look at goaltending and special teams for New Jersey really intrigue me. The Devils have the second best penalty kill percentage. It's right around 82%. And then they have the third best power play percentage, which is just a tick over 28%. So if they can get, I understand that Carolina penalty kill is the best in the NHL. It operates at about 84%. If the Devils can get the power play going and maybe just, if that's a 6, 7 game series, if they could get 4 power play goals, I think that's a huge advantage for them.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I definitely agree on the goaltending front. I think Markstrom is, I mean, these are two teams that we more so Carolina, but a little bit the Devils just because of injuries. We've seen both teams use both goalies, and I think it's reasonable that we could see all four goalies in this series. But I think for me, Markstrom is the goalie out of all four goalies that at his best and at his healthiest, I think he's the best goalie in the series. That same report that you're referencing that gave the goaltending edge to Carolina was trying to say that Jake Allen is the most trustworthy goalie of the four tenders, and I think that is bullshit.
I mean, maybe in like a condensed numbers version, like if they're just going based on stats. But like if I said to the two
Yeah.
of you today, out of the four goaltenders from that series, if you had to pick one to put on your team to start a playoff matchup right now, who would you take?
I'm taking Markstrom, and
Easy.
I don't want to air out the account because it's not, but you're right. They are very numbers heavy. It's one of those accounts that relies a little too much just on like stats and like facts and like on paper shit, and it's not really always about that.
The Corsi army.
Yeah, exactly.
McCourcy, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, I'd probably agree with the Markstrom take. Obviously, if you look at every other part of the game, offense, defense, that kind of stuff, special teams, coaching, I'm probably going to take Carolina in almost every category. Um, I think they got a couple guys who are pretty slept on. Taylor Hall, sneaky, kind of a good second piece in that acquisition when
That's a
Rantanen
great
came.
point.
He kind of lit up.
Yep,
Uh,
absolutely.
Everyone is now aware of the Seth Jarvis craze, right? He made the Four Nation
Yeah.
squad. He had over 30 goals this season, so everyone's awake to that. But I'm going to give you a guy that I think can make some serious noise. And when I do watch the Hurricanes games, he's probably my favorite player to watch.
Skylar Brindamore.
I think Jackson Blake, the
Yeah.
former North Dakota kid,
Yep.
he's nasty. And I think he makes a huge difference in that top six.
He
He
does. He's
he
good.
looks just like his dad too, does he not?
He does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. So I
Not in
don't
the way
know.
he plays, just in physical appearance.
Yeah, I mean he's
Hmm.
sick. 17 goals, 34 points this season. Not bad for a kid's fresh out of college. But
Very good player.
um, is Carolina minus what did I say 245 favorites? I don't think anybody in the NHL should be quite that much.
This
It's
ain't
worth
the NBA playoffs, is it?
right. It's worth noting Jersey gets Dougie Hamilton back. That's the guy who's going to play the most minutes on
Oh,
their team.
good.
Former Hurricane legend.
Well, there's a
True, true.
little bit of that there.
Yep.
So um,
I think speaking of injuries and defensemen, I think I mean I don't know what the timeline is, but I'm pretty sure they're not getting Devils are not getting Siegenthaler back anytime soon. I know he's ruled out for the rest of the regular season like a month ago. I don't know if there's been any progress on that, but I think that's a huge blow, honestly. Like if he's not going to play at all this series, that's really tough.
Yeah, I agree.
obviously, saving the picks for the end of the episode, just like we did with the West. So not going to give out official here, but I think this is probably the most boring series, if I'm being honest. And
Yeah.
I know we have Hurricanes fans that listen and they don't like when we say that, but like if we get Canes Caps, maybe I'm saying that's the most interesting series we get
Yeah.
because that's going to be a barn burner. But for me here,
That's
this is
fair. I think it's fair to say on paper this is the dud, but time and time again, sometimes those end up being like this is going to be the one that goes seven and into two overtimes or some shit like that. So you just never know.
It's gonna be hard on the eyes too. The Devils jerseys versus the Canes
Yeah.
jerseys. I mean, I say that it's two red teams. I guess that's what we have with the Habs and the Caps
But
too, but that just feels less hard on the eyes for
are
some
the
reason.
Hurricanes a red team though?
depends. What are
I
we gonna
mean,
get?
I
What are we
guess
gonna
they're kind
get?
of like a gray team
Right,
because they're fucking stupid, but
right. They're a red helmet team. We know that.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Um,
One more point on Jersey I want to make, and a guy that, I know Jack Hughes is out, but a guy that I am just convinced and is such a gamer. I feel like every time I watch this guy play against the Caps, he just lights them up.
Brian Dumoulin.
Yes. Uh, Jesper Bratt,
Yes.
gamer.
Yeah, yeah.
That guy's going to score some massive goals this series. I just have that feeling.
it's probably their best player. I mean, he led their team in points. There's been a
Right?
lot of haters for Timo Meyer this season. Let's see what he can do here. I think every time I think of Timo Meyer in a Devils jersey, I think of when he got crushed by, I think it was Truba in that
Yeah.
series 2 years ago where he got knocked out. That was nuts.
Hmm.
Um,
Was
Daniel
that the one where
Sprong will
like,
have at least one wicked snipe this series too. I'm
I
putting my
like
hat on
that?
that.
and last thing I'll say about Jersey, there are two guys that I think could make some noise. Andre Palat is no stranger to playing in big games. Did
Yeah.
it did it with Tampa a lot, and let's see what Mercer can do. I feel like
Palat
there's a lot to be
Palat
had.
left the game last week with an injury, but I think his X-ray came back negative, so I believe he should be good to go for playoffs. But I totally agree as long as he's playing in the lineup, and at least 70-80%. He's somebody that can change the game.
Yeah, I think they have him as day to day. Go figure.
Right, right.
Feels low scoring in this series, if you want my opinion on that, for whatever that's worth. But
Part of me thinks so, and then part of me thinks
I
like
can't tell.
game 2 or 3 is gonna be like 4-7 or like 6-5 or something
Yeah,
ridiculous
bust
like
one
I
that.
open.
could see some of that nonsense. I can't tell if I feel like this is an over and under series.
Well, we're gonna move on to what is probably the hardest series to choose, although it seems like everybody's choosing
Not for me.
one-sided, and that is the Battle of the Sunshine State, Tampa and Florida, which we currently have at a pick'em, which is just so fitting. Probably the two teams out of the East that everybody going into the playoffs before we knew the matchups had as their cup picks to represent the Eastern Conference. Very popular, given the deadline moves. So what is this? The third time in 4 or 5 years that this has happened.
Just
Uh,
about.
I think some of them have been second round, but yeah, we've at least been treated to am I right about that? Haven't they played in the second round at
yeah,
some point?
I
Yeah,
they
okay.
think
did.
so.
They did.
But either way, yeah, we've been treated to a Battle of Florida series nonetheless a couple times now in the last few years.
So this is going to be interesting because we don't really know who's healthy for Florida as we're recording this. Now, it is worth mentioning that Paul Maurice said today, Thursday, that everybody's available. No one knows what that means. That could mean anything.
Well, I know one guy who's not available for at least 2 games, but
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I
That's a fair
forgot
point.
about that.
Yeah, I did too. Um, so Florida's got a bunch of injuries. It's no secret if you check the internet, everybody's picking Tampa. It's pretty cut and dry over there. We've got a battle of two of the best Russian goaltenders in the league, which is going to be an awesome goalie matchup. I'd expect a ton of physicality. These guys are very familiar with each other. So Mac, I'll let you tee it off. What's your general vibe check coming into this one?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the cup hangover situation with any team. I always think that's something to look for. Doesn't happen with everybody. It obviously didn't happen with Tampa when they went back to back, or the Penguins when they did that. But it's something to watch out for, and I think it plays an even bigger role when you're ailing from an injury standpoint too, like the Cats are right now. So that's kind of something that makes me lean Tampa a little bit. Just kind of seeing how dinged up they are, and knowing that they also played more hockey than anyone else last year besides the Oilers, I guess. But um I don't know. I mean, you never are going to count the Panthers out, that's for sure. They're a team full of guys that are they got a lot of pride. They're going to fight. They're going to give it everything they have. I also, obviously they add Marchand at the deadline. That guy's got to be freaking hungry to taste some extra postseason hockey, especially knowing that his Bruins didn't even come close to making it this year. He's got to feel pretty lucky to be in a situation here where he can play some postseason hockey, and he's going to be looking to make a big difference. So I don't know. It on paper and just vibe check. I want to go hard on Tampa right away, but it's hard to count the defending Cup champs out. And knowing Paul Maurice, knowing how that team works, how they function day to day, they're never going to be an easy out. I think this is going to be a fantastic series. I do think it'll probably go the distance unless Florida's more injured than they're leading on, or if some of these guys try and come back and then they have to sit out game 2 and 3 or something like that. We're gonna have to see, but um, that's kind of where my head's at on a surface level vibe check here.
this one's so tough to call. In doing the research and the outlines for these over the last like couple days, I've been like thinking about each one of these matchups between the East and West, and I sort of will go in my head. It's like, oh well, Winnipeg's got Hellebuck. Oh well, St. Louis is playing really well, and I can kind of go back and forth until I finally decide on like, hey, this team's clearly significantly better than their opponent. I think they're going to win this series. This is the one where I literally just continuously go in an endless loop saying, oh, well, Florida's got Marchand. It's like, oh, well, Tampa's got Cooper. It's like, oh, well, Florida's got Bob. It's like, okay, Tampa's got Vasi. And it's just back and forth with these two. So It's really hard for me to pick apart who's got a better forward lineup, who's got a better decor. The goalies are both world class. They both won Vezinas, both won Stanley Cups. What I would love to hear from you guys is who you think has better coaching,
Ooh,
Wow, that is really hard, right?
I'm probably gonna do the thing that irks me the most when I listen to sports shows, and I'm gonna say I actually can't choose. That's how
fair.
close I think it is.
Yeah.
Like
I
both
don't
of these guys
oh,
are elite level NHL coaches right now. It's not like they used to be or like someone's up and coming. Both of them are at the top of their game right now.
I'm gonna say something maybe controversial. I think, and honestly, this isn't before anybody gets pissed at me for saying this, this isn't really based on a whole lot of fact. It's much more just kind of like how I think shit went down. I mean, obviously, I don't know whether Cooper or Maurice is really getting into the X's and O's and who's doing more actual coaching behind the scenes, but in my head, like the way that I feel like it played out for Florida to win their cup and for Tampa to win their two cups recently, I feel like, and I don't want to take anything away from John Cooper because he's an incredible coach, but I feel like he maybe had to do less to will that team to get to that kind of success than Maurice had to do for the Cats, if that makes sense. I don't even
Do you
I
know
hear
what
think
I'm
that.
that's just
basing that on.
because do you think that's just because we saw more of Maurice's like in the locker room stuff? Like I
It
feel like
could
the
be.
Panthers were pretty open with sharing that video.
It could be, but I think the other thing that I think about is like Stamkos and Kucherov, like those guys just it felt like destiny for that. Like to me, it felt
Yeah,
like those guys just like freaking grabbing the bull by the horns and being like, no, we are winning the freaking Stanley Cup this year,
right.
and then running it back and doing it again. And not again, I don't want to take anything away on the other side from guys like Kachuk or Barkov um or Ekblad or anybody like that on the Cats, but I that's just kind of how it felt to me. I don't know.
I could hear that out. I also think Vasi, like at the peak of his peaks, was just insane and not
Right.
taking
Yep.
anything away from Bob last year because he was really good too.
Yep.
But it's pretty like unanimous that Vasilevsky's the best goalie in the league. So could hear that out. Again, I'm gonna say the same thing. Like without seeing the injuries, it's hard to really pick this, and the fact that Matty Tkachuk hasn't played in a really long time, he's a huge X factor. I look at Tampa, and I'm looking at the stat sheets from Tampa and Florida. The core guys on Tampa, I mean, I knew they all popped off, but holy shit, did they
Yeah.
pop off? I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's just nuts. They got an Art Ross winner. They've got Brandon Hagel, who scored 35 goals this season, and not one of them was on the power play, which is just crazy to say out loud. Braden Point, 42. Jake Gensel, 41. And I know what that guy's capable of in the playoffs, and that is a recipe for disaster if you're a Florida fan. He's notorious for being a playoff performer. So, I mean, everything on paper would tell me that,
This is
yeah,
Gensel's first year in the playoffs with them, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, he was with Carolina last year. So,
Yep.
everything
They have the
swings.
best goals per game in the league, 3.6.
Right. The only way this gets interesting, and this is what Florida's so good at, is they turn this into a street fight. And it starts getting, Tampa off kilter, and there's a lot of after the whistle stuff. There's a lot of penalties. There's a lot of slow.
And that gets Cooper flustered too, honestly. He like if you've
That's
seen
a
some
good
of his
point.
post-game pressers after those sorts of games, like there's nothing he seems more bothered by than when a team like that is able to like get under his team's skin and get them off their game. I've seen a lot of his post-game pressers where he's like just dumbfounded because he's like, holy shit, that team just freaking like got to us. Like
Yeah.
they fucking pissed us off and got our guys off their game.
That happened a couple times in the conference finals in 18. You get Kucherov to take a dumb penalty. You get one of the defensemen to take a dumb cross check in their own zone. Just things like that I think
Exactly.
that's a
Yeah.
great point, Mac.
Yeah, this one's tough. And then I go back to Florida, and I'm like, but who on God's earth is going to want to play against Bennett, Marchand, and Kachuk on a line? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
you think about, like,
This is what I was saying. You could just go in a loop for
Well,
days with this
and
stuff.
somebody we haven't even mentioned yet, fucking Carter Verhaeghe last year, you
Right.
guys. I
Right.
mean, just a man possessed in the postseason.
How many overtime goals this year? Three, five? Like,
Yeah,
Right. And then you go to Shirelli and you're like, well, how many does
right.
he have? Like, it really is a great series. I
it's gonna be
think,
fantastic.
ah, yeah, picks at the end. But I will say this, and I'm repeating myself. I have not seen one bracket out of the million I've seen on Twitter pick Florida to win this one.
Whoa.
I can't. Yeah, I feel the same way. I saw a lot of brackets today. I don't think I saw any of them picking the Cats.
And
Tampa's
for,
got a good power play, and Florida was the most penalized team this
Mm,
season.
yeah,
that's not good. Yeah.
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, we're gonna move on to
Fuck.
buckle up. The Washington Capitals versus the Montreal Canadiens. Uh, I'm gonna pull up odds for these here, but I will let you two take the floor. There's no reason for me to talk right now.
All right, so Mac and I had kind of been like going back and forth, and I had been doing this with a bunch of other Caps fans too. It's like, who would you rather play, Columbus or Montreal? And I think, over the last couple of days we got to a point where it's like, I don't care, I just want to know. Well, we have our answer. It's the Montreal Canadiens. They locked it up last night with their win over Carolina, correct?
Yes.
So my immediate reaction to this is, yeah, I'm a little bit apprehensive. That Habs team looks pretty good. They look really fast, really skilled. They're playing really, really well right now, and they're coming into the postseason hot. Usually that's a recipe for disaster, especially for the Washington Capitals in the past. But I firmly believe that the Washington Capitals can win this series. Have started to bring myself a little bit back down to earth about it. So yeah, I'm feeling good going into this series. I think the Caps have had a great year. Obviously Ovi doing what he did with his, goal scoring this year was insane for a 39-year-old man that broke his fucking leg and then went on to shatter the NHL goal scoring record. That's pretty insane. Wilson, Protas, Strome, McMichael all set career highs in goals. I think that's incredible. The Washington Capitals had 7 players that hit 20 or more goals this year, and one of them was a defenseman. So those are all great numbers right there. Immediately that makes me feel a little bit better. I am a little bit concerned about Alexi Protas. I would love to hear a concrete update on him coming back soon. That's something I'm really, leaning on. He had the best shooting percentage of any Cap this season, just a tick over 21%. So that's fantastic. And you guys have to remember that that guy also, like Brandon Hagel, doesn't usually see power play time.
Yeah, no, all good points. I think I agree with you. I feel mostly good, but I think the two biggest question marks that need to be addressed in this discussion surrounding the Capitals, one you just mentioned, Alexi Protas, and number two, the goaltending situation. Obviously, Logan Thompson had a great year for us, a big part of our success. Um, hasn't played in a few weeks now, had somewhat of a minor injury. I think it was mostly the kind of thing where he was gonna sit the rest of the season as like a precautionary type thing. I do know that he's been a full participant in practice the last few days, so I believe he's ready to go. But that being said, it's kind of like, well, do you start a guy that hasn't played a game in 3+ weeks, or do you go with Lindgren, who's played pretty well the last couple of games and is kind of in rhythm, and maybe start him until he falters and then switch to LT? You also got randomly Clay Stevenson making his NHL debut as we speak against the Penguins, our third string goalie at the moment. So I don't think that's an accident. I think that the Caps management and coaching staff is fully at least thinking, well, we might as well get this guy in a quick NHL game here just in case something happens with injuries down the road here. So he's not playing his first game in the playoffs. I think that's smart. The Protus thing, what I've heard is that he has not resumed skating yet, so that is not a good sign. I From the rumors that I picked up on Twitter, it's that the injury was a cut from a skate. So we're probably dealing with some sort of cut or a laceration. With those type of things, it's normal to not be able to skate at all for a while, and then as soon as it's healed enough, you typically can get back in the swing of things pretty quickly. So I don't think it's one of those things where it's like he hasn't skated because he's got like this bone bruise that he's gonna have to nurse back
Right.
to health. It's a little bit of a unique situation from what I
You're
understand.
doing that to prevent any form of infection from taking hold, which is then going to make this a billion times worse.
Or reopening or whatever
Yes.
it is. Yeah,
And
exactly. So,
everyone knows that hockey equipment is super sanitary and does not smell bad at all. So luckily, there's
right.
no chance of that happening.
Yeah. So I think it was like from the play, it looked like it was on his lower leg,
Yeah.
maybe like the back of his leg or
They
something
said
like
it was like
that.
right around where like the skate tongue is or something like
Yeah,
that.
that makes sense. So, I will say that is a huge, huge piece. The goalie thing I'm a little less worried about, oddly enough. Like whether it's LT or Chucky in there, I feel mostly fine about that. Um, we are a different team with and without Alexi Protas, so
Yes.
we cannot afford to have him miss like this entire series or something like that. It behooves us that, or it benefits us that we don't start till Monday. Give him a couple extra days to get ready, but I would really hope that he's ready to go by at the latest game 2 or 3 or something like that. So
Yeah, I totally agree. Defensively, I do think the Caps have the advantage here. I know that Montreal's got great young mobile defensemen that can jump up and add to the rush. Hudson, oh my God, are you kidding me? Set a rookie record beating out Larry Robinson for assists as a rookie defenseman. I mean,
yeah,
that's
that is
just
pretty impressive.
insane. Caden Gooley, we saw it last night. He has 2 goals, and everyone was saying that's the best game of hockey they've ever seen him play. So
Yeah.
that's pretty scary. Carlson and Chikrin, I would expect those to be the two top dogs for the Caps this season. They carry the most ice time for the Caps. Carlson's a tick over 23 minutes a game. I would expect that to go up to about 25. Chikrin's a tick over 21. I would expect that to also go up to about 24. You're also probably looking for Matt Roy, who's your best shutdown defenseman, to get a big increase in time. And I think Rasmus Sandin as well, just because of the skating ability, probably does that to complement him. Question for you guys. So obviously, young guns are a little bit of an X factor in the series. The Habs have a bunch of them. If you're the Washington Capitals, does Ryan Leonard start game one?
I would say yes. I think at this point he's got a spot in the lineup, and I think you want to at least get him into the first playoff game to see what he does. I know a lot of people are mostly non-Caps fans looking to kind of prey on our downfall are trying to be quick to be like, oh, well, he's only got the one empty net goal, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think every game he's played, he's been one of the better players on the ice. Like I think he for sure passes the eye test. He's super fast, like just controls play. Like I've seen him pick up the puck in our D zone so many times and just with ease, the next thing you know, he's like,
It's a player that can control the puck through the neutral zone. The
yeah,
Caps have been
he's
looking
just
for that for 10 years.
yeah, he
Like,
can get the puck to the offensive like face-off dot in no time with ease, and that's kind of the reason I want him in the lineup is just somebody to be able to kind of break the game open a little bit like that. Um, I also love how much he's been throwing his body around just as a youngster in this league right away. He is not afraid to go after some of the top talents in the league with his checking. So I think that's another reason you want him in for postseason.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think you got to play him. And from what I've seen from Caps games, I'm not as dialed in as you guys, but certainly has passed the eye test. Fast, isn't afraid of throwing the body. Kind of will do whatever it takes to make the play. So I think you need that in the lineup. let's Let me shift this conversation a little bit towards Montreal. So, the youngest team ever in NHL history to make the postseason, an average age of 25 and a half years old, which is pretty wild. So we have that going into this. And as you both know, there's all this hype around Ivan Demidov, the $250,000 jersey sales in a day, the private jet to get him to Canada. He's got fans chanting his name. They've got him in like the Ritz-Carlton with his girlfriend in a fully stocked fridge, like all this stuff. And I just got to think, like, with a guy who's that talented, it's going to be different come postseason. I know that. He's a huge X factor. He's an enormous X factor for Montreal. He could arguably be their best offensive weapon if he finds his rhythm here. So I'm very interested to watch him this series and see how he reacts to a physical North American game, which we know the Caps are going to play. Montreal, strangely physical. I did not expect this. They
Yep.
were seventh in the NHL in hits. And in the Eastern Conference, that's the second most of any Eastern Conference playoff team right now, other than the Senators.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Demidov can do, especially like you said, going into North American Stanley Cup playoffs. That's just a different animal. And he's going up against one of the bigger teams in the NHL right now, and definitely one of the biggest and heaviest in the Eastern Conference in the Washington Capitals. There's some big boys out there that do not mind throwing that weight around, and you know they're going to be looking for it too. That's a team that does not shy away from that kind of stuff. They're going to be in your face from the drop of the puck. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see. When it comes to Montreal, for me, though, the biggest offensive weapon and the player I am most concerned about on that team is without question Nick Suzuki. I would say right now in the NHL, I think Nick Suzuki is easily top three hockey IQ. I would go Crosby one, McDavid two, and Suzuki three in that order. So I think just his ability to read the game, make everyone around him better. His two-way game is fantastic. Vision, skating, all impeccable. That's a player the Caps need to get a handle on. They cannot let that guy start to dictate play, start to dictate special teams. That is a nightmare waiting to happen. So you got to shut that shit down.
Yeah, you guys make both great points. Suzuki, scary. Caulfield, scary. Obviously, even line A, that line is going to be scary as well. It really does come down to the blue line. That's the only area that I feel like the Caps have the clear cut advantage when healthy. I know we're dealing with a little bit of dinged up guys on the back end there too. So we'll see how it all shakes out for game one. Um, I I think, Harry, what you touched on, the hitting factor for Montreal, that for me is the number one reason I was a little bit afraid of this matchup for the Caps. I think out of all the teams that qualified for the playoffs in the East, um, I think Montreal is right up there with the teams like with the maybe the team that can hang with the Caps the most in terms of going body for body and being able to kind of not get bullied by the Caps. You watch what happened in that blowout loss where the Canes beat the doors off the Caps a couple weeks back. Even though we lost that game real bad, we were kind of bullying them physically, and that really got under their skin. The Hurricanes are a bad matchup for the Caps in that regard because they don't have a lot of toughness like that. They don't throw the body around as much. Canes or sorry, the Habs are very much the opposite of that. And I think, yeah, what I'm trying to say is they can for sure hang. They've got guys that throw the body a lot. They play a similar style of physical hockey that the Capitals have been built around for the last decade plus.
One thing with the Habs, they're streaky. That's the one thing about them where I'm like, I'm not really sure what I'm going to get. I look at Line A and I look at Demidov. If those two guys are playing at their full potential, this is going to be a much closer series than the odds would indicate. And one last thing, and then I'll let you guys wrap it up. Montreal, little bit of Bell Center merchants here. I got a stat here that is fascinating. I didn't realize it was quite this skewed. In Montreal's last 12 games at home, they are 10-0 and 2. And in their last 12 games on the road, they're 3-5 and 4. So there's a huge difference of them at home versus them on the road.
Yeah, I mean, it is the hardest building to play in. This is the arena for hockey. We've said it a billion times. If you're the Washington Capitals, you can't lose at home and you got to have at least one there.
You nailed it. We got to win our home games. I will say though, for a team, if you look at it from the Habs perspective, for a team that is not great on the road, I do think there's potential game one for them to have a little bit of a rude awakening. I think that, especially as a younger team in the league, a lot of these guys have never played a playoff game in Washington, D.C. before. You ask around the league, people will say Cap One is one of the tougher atmospheres to play in it come playoff time, which surprises a lot of people because normal regular season game, not necessarily an especially tough building to play in. That place gets the roof blown off of it come playoff time. I mean
Yeah,
the
once you get all the
decibel
corporate
levels.
stooges out of there.
Yeah, exactly. No more wine on a Tuesday night with your button down under your jersey. We're drinking Michelob's and we're unleashing the fury. So
Exactly.
Picks at the end.
indeed.
Just sending that reminder out one more time. All right, our last series. the Battle of Ontario, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Ottawa Senators. And by the way, I want to correct myself. The Caps are actually the biggest favorites in all of the playoffs round one. I didn't have their odds in front, but they're minus 330, so that's more
Great.
than
I
New
wish that
Jersey.
was not the case, but
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we got Toronto at minus 170, Ottawa at plus 145. It's been 21 years since the Leafs and the Senators last crossed paths in the
that's
postseason.
insane.
So been a hot minute. I believe I'm trying to remember. Maybe that was '07. I can't do math. No, that definitely wasn't '07. I don't know. I'm not gonna do that.
No, it was pre-Ovi.
Sens took the season series 3-0. And man, oh man, boys, this is going to be a fun one. I feel like this is going to be sneaky, maybe the most entertaining one of all of the playoffs, perhaps. We got Brady Tkachuk finally making it into the postseason. We saw what he did in Four Nations. A lot of people have big expectations for him in this postseason. And the Leafs, some are saying this is the best chance in the AM34 era that the Leafs could have to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. It's kind of been a sexy pick I've seen in some
I
brackets.
don't know if that's the case. I don't know if I would say that.
So we'll break all this down, but we got to get a vibe check first. And Nick, I feel like you're smiling ear to ear right now because you're just ready to rip on this one. So I'll
This
tee you up.
this is the series I am most excited for. East, West, I don't care. Florida, Tampa, who cares at this point? I want to see these two teams absolutely beat the shit out of each other for 7 games. Like just from an entertainment point of view. Like, I mean, you're gonna have two of the best Canadian markets up there just going at it nonstop. The Twitter banter is gonna be incredible. The memes are gonna be even better. And I just have a feeling this series is going to give us a little bit of nonsense, tomfoolery, maybe some ne'er-do-welling. So that's just what playoff hockey is all about to me. So I'm fired up. But I think the big thing here for Toronto is they've made the playoffs in the last 9 seasons. They have won one series in that time. Like something's got to give, guys. Like it's either time to like put up or shut up. And like, if you don't put up this year, I would like to petition that none of us have to read your bullshit for another year. I don't want to hear about any Marner contract extensions. I don't want to hear about Austin Matthews, this, that, or the other thing. Just win a playoff series. Otherwise, I don't want to hear from you until this time next season.
For me, and I know Harry said it earlier, but for me, this is by far the hardest series to pick a winner of in either conference. I keep going back and forth on this one. And it's also one of those things where, like, in March Madness, when you're making a pick and then you get all the way to the end and you realize that, like, somebody in your final four has a coin flip matchup in the round of 64. That's kind of how I feel about this because it's like, if I pick the Senators to win, but the Leafs win, the Leafs could get all the way if they do win. And then my bracket's going to be totally fucked up. You know what
Right.
I'm
It's
saying?
like an
So
8-9 March Madness pick.
yeah, it's super hard in that regard, but I'm so excited for Brady Tkachuk. Like think about it from this perspective. Last year, he got to watch his brother tear it up in the postseason, was at all those Stanley Cup Finals games with his pop. Um and as happy as I'm sure he was for Matthew, deep down inside of Brady, he's just like, "Oh my God, I want to do that so
It's the
bad." Like
second thought that goes through your brain.
yeah, you're like, that's awesome. I'm so happy for him, but when's it gonna be my turn? I want to do like it's huge little brother energy.
Yeah.
And boom, the very next season, he's chomping at the bit. So I think he's gonna come out of the floodgates, just freaking, you know, sprinting. And
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see that. I think the Leafs are gonna have their hands full, to say the least, with the Senators team.
I agree. I do think this one goes the distance. If you're picking up what I'm putting down there, I won't say who I think wins just yet, but I do think this one is going to go the distance. Yeah, I don't know. Brady Tkachuk, it's going to be awesome. I think the big thing for him is like you got to manage those, those jitters, that level of excitement. I mean, we saw what it was like in Four Nations. You just go out there and start a ruckus, which, I absolutely loved. But in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you probably don't want to do that right off the draw, nor do I think he would do that. But you just got to manage that kind of stuff over a 7-game series as opposed to a 4-game tournament. So I think that'll be interesting to look at. Ottawa, like the thing for me that really I think gives them a little bit of an edge here is these really young mobile defensemen, and specifically Jake Sanderson. That's a player I think the Leafs are going to have a really hard time containing, especially when it comes to special teams and stuff like that. We saw what a good skater he can be. We saw what a key player he can be, especially for that American Four Nations team. So he's a guy I'm definitely going to be looking at on the Sens end. And then Tim Stützle. Let's see what you can do, man. Time to shine.
Feel like we've got some diving memes and accusations in the future for him, but if I shifted over to Toronto, we all know about the big three. We always talk about them. Anthony Stolarz might be the savior of Toronto if he can pull this off. He is 8-0 in his last 8 starts coming into the playoffs. He's the hottest goaltender in the NHL at the moment. So I think that's a huge momentum boost for Toronto. There's two guys for Toronto also that I think can have a serious impact. Obviously, the big three are the main ones. Bobby McMahon, he popped off this year. He's a son of a bitch to play against. He's a 20-goal guy. He'll knock your teeth in. He throws the body. I love his game, and I love what he's done for Toronto this year. And then Matthew Nyes, I mean, he's been stealing national media attention this season. Big body, scores gritty goals. Perfect playoff player, in my opinion. I think the Leafs really need both those guys to make some big jumps here in the postseason. But the goaltending for me is the big thing.
If you want to talk about an over series, I expect this to be very high scoring. While both teams have some pieces on the blue line that I like, I don't love either team's defense as a whole, and I do think this will be a pretty high scoring series night in and night out.
Harry, you're going goaltending edge to Toronto. Mac, where do you stand on that?
I would give goaltending edge to Ottawa. I think Ullmark is
I
the
think
best
it's a
goalie in this
wash.
series.
Yeah, I think it's a wash.
I think overall you'd say Allmark, yeah, but given just the recent history here in the last 2 months, like it's hard for me to go against
Yeah,
that.
I get it. You're riding the hot hand. That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Series predictions. Who should we start with?
Let's go back in the order we went for the episode.
All right, we'll start with Carolina, Jersey. Who we got? I'll tee it off since this is easy and get it out of the way. I'm going to take the Hurricanes.
How many
And
games?
I'm going to say the Hurricanes in five.
Oh boy. Mac?
that was my original pick. However, I love doing these episodes because they kind of like help me think through things each year. And my official pick that I'm gonna lock in is Hurricanes in six. I think it'll be a little closer, but I just think ultimately not close enough for the Devils.
I am going to go Hurricanes in seven, and that game will go to overtime.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh, okay. All right, Tampa, Florida.
Oh, Jesus. Bolts in seven.
Ah, man. I'm
This sucks.
Bolts. I'm for sure Bolts. I just can't decide if I'm six or seven. I'll go seven.
Mm, God damn it. I I will take the Bolts in seven. I hate that
Wow.
because I do feel like Florida. I think Florida can win the series, but they're gonna blow their entire load to get out of this. Like that's
I
how it
want
feels to
them
me.
to. That's
I want
exactly what
both
I
of these
want to
teams
happen.
to just destroy each
Yes.
other and then like basically limp into the second
Have
round.
nothing. Yes.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I'd
changing my
prefer it to
pick.
be Florida that does the
I'm
limping.
changing
Yes.
my pick. I can't do it. Florida in seven.
Good. Love
I'm
it. All
changing
right.
Wow.
it. I have to. I just feel like there's too much like rivalry there and pride in Florida where like there's gonna be some 2 or 3 game streak where we're like, what's wrong with Kucherov? Is he hurt? And it's like, no,
Mm.
Forsland's just murdering him every play into the bleachers. But okay, anyways.
I love that. Okay.
Caps Habs.
I'm not going first on this one.
Harry, you go first.
Yeah.
So I feel like the last 2 weeks of the season, I was sending you guys all this Habs stuff, and I was like, they're hot, they're hot. Then
You were doing that
Demidov,
today.
yeah, I know. Demidov, he's coming, like, here it is, blah, blah, blah. But just the last like 3 games of the year, I kind of hated what I saw just from them as a team. And I was really wanting to come in here and say Habs in like seven, but the more I'm thinking about it and letting it sink in, I think the Caps are going to absolutely rinse them, which is probably hurting you guys because if I think that,
Yeah, I
makes
don't.
it
I
weird.
was hoping you
Right.
would pick the
So
Habs.
Same. I was waiting for like Habs and six or something
Yeah,
like
that would be
that.
sick.
I
Please
think
say that.
I think it's going to be Caps in. We'll go Caps in six.
Okay.
I am also of the Caps and six belief.
I'm gonna go Caps in seven, and I hate the fact that I'm
Oh,
gonna say
I was
that,
hoping
but
you'd say five. Come on,
no.
Nick.
I
No, I
think
think
this is how we exercise 2010.
yeah, it feels
Oh,
right. You
don't
got
make me do a fucking game seven in the first
I
round
know.
against the fucking
But the
Canadians.
good news is I said it, so it's gonna be wrong.
All right. All right.
All right, last series, Toronto, Ottawa. Mac, lead us off.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God.
Do it. Do it.
Sens in seven.
Let's go. I'm right there with you.
Leafs in six.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You're probably right, honestly, but
I don't know. Like
I just can't stop thinking about Brady Kachuk. I
I
really can't. And after losing four nations too, now he's like he's not gonna like just lose everything this year. You know what I mean? Like he's just
He's just like standing in his basement, just like punching pictures of
yeah,
Brandon Hagel on the wall or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like people really are sleeping on the Leafs, and I know that there's people who are really high on Ottawa, and I get it,
Hmm.
but it just feels like Toronto's kind of due here for a little bit of a run. I say that every year. So,
Right.
all right, we gave our Western Conference winners who are going to the Stanley Cup Finals yesterday. I had Vegas. Nick, you had
LA.
LA. And Mac, you had Winnipeg. So now it's time to give our Eastern Conference team who will make the Stanley Cup Finals. Um, Nick, do you know who you're taking?
I think so. I was thinking about this a lot today when I was doing the notes, and ultimately I was like, you know what, you can do stats all day you want. I got to go by eye test, and I got to go with my gut. And the Tampa Bay Lightning will face the Los Angeles Kings in the Stanley Cup Final.
Wow.
I'm right there with Nick. Unfortunately, I believe the Tampa Bay Lightning will be playing the Winnipeg Jets.
Ooh, that'll be a good one.
But again,
God.
it's the March Madness thing because if they lose
Right.
that fucking first round to
Yeah.
Florida, which they totally could,
Right.
Well, that's playing a huge role here because, like, I'm looking at the
It's like
first
your
round
bracket's
matchups.
either going to be sick or it's just going to
or
be
just in
literally
flames
like
immediately,
like
busted.
ill.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
Right. And I personally, as I'm looking at the bracket, let's say, Toronto, if Toronto or Ottawa wins, like that second round matchup is rough for either
Hmm.
Florida team. And I don't know, like I'm gonna sound crazy when I say this. I really think whoever's coming out of the East is either gonna be Washington or Carolina. Like as I'm looking at the
Really?
bracket and I think who's gonna like
wow.
murder each other.
Huh.
I just think that like if Tampa beats Florida, it's a rock'em sock'em robots. Then they gotta take Toronto, and there's gonna be so much energy in that. Like I think the
I'm
Caps have a pretty clear road, but
I'm a homer, so like this won't surprise most people, but my second pick after Tampa would be the Capitals. I think that the reason I can't pick the Caps to go there is Tampa. But I
Yeah.
then I go back to if we play the Leafs instead of Tampa in that spot, if we were to get
Right.
through Carolina and yada yada yada, there's a bunch of ifs, but I'm only not picking the Caps to get there because I don't think we can beat the Lightning in a 7 game series. But if we don't have to, then I mean, fuck, I don't know.
all right. I'm gonna do something that nobody's gonna like. You guys are gonna hate my Stanley Cup final.
No, don't
I
pick
swear to God,
us.
if it's like Edmonton, Toronto.
No, well, I picked Vegas for the West.
Oh, right.
I I think
No.
Carolina might go to the Cup.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
I think they might do it. I'm like they're gonna. I don't know. I just have a
that's
weird feeling. I'm taking Carolina to
Would you
go to the
guys
Cup.
even want to watch that Stanley
that would
Cup final? I
suck
mean, you want to
so
talk about
bad.
brutal uniform matchups. I'd
Oh,
rather just like,
oh, dude. Oh my
It would be
God.
a shitty one. It would
yeah.
be a
That
shitty
would
one.
suck so hard.
Yeah.
So I've got Carolina and Vegas. Mac
That's so
has
gross.
Winnipeg and Tampa, and Nick has LA and Tampa. Now, Nick, who's winning that matchup?
Oh, Jesus. Probably the Bolts if they get that far. Like if they get that far, I don't think anyone can hang with them.
Now, give me a Conn Smythe winner. And how many games is that Stanley Cup final going?
That's going to go six, and Hagel's going to get the Conn Smythe. He's going to score like
Ooh.
two massive either overtime goals, either in the Stanley Cup final or in the conference final or something.
All right, Mac.
Winnipeg Jets in 6, and your Conn Smythe winner, American hero Connor Hellebuck.
Let's go.
I'm my biggest storyline that I fully believe in this NHL postseason is Connor Hellebuck revenge year. I literally think he's about to like post like a fucking like 198 through the postseason or some shit like that and go all the way to the cup final. I really just have a gut feeling.
See it. All right, I have the Vegas Golden Knights taking down the Carolina Hurricanes in 6 games. And I do believe Jack Eichel will win that Conn Smythe if that
Wow.
happens. So, ugly pick from me. I don't even like
Yeah,
that.
that's garbage, dude. I hate that.
But you know what? Like, I just feel like, and I'm not bashing you guys. You're probably going to be more right than me, but
Sure about that?
I don't like taking the chalk. Like everyone wants Tampa, and Winnipeg or Colorado seems to be the sexy pick. But I
Yeah.
love that LA one, Nick. I think that's a
Yeah.
dark horse.
I hope so. It's probably going to torpedo the crap out of my bracket, but oh well. Let me ask you guys this before we wrap up. East and West, all eight playoff matchups. If you had to pick one that's most likely to be a sweep, because none of us ever pick these matchups to be sweeps when we do these, which one would you say? It's like if I had to put like $200 on one of them to end in 4 games, who would you choose?
Oof.
I'm gonna pick the Jets again. I said it in the Western thing. I don't like how those teams match up against each other whatsoever. I really think there's a high chance the Jets could just suffocate the Blues and give them absolutely nothing. I
That
don't
was
think
my
the
thought
Blues
as well.
I do not think the Blues will score a lot of goals in that series at all. So that could be a sweep. We'll see.
I think the other one I was kind of torn on is also in the Western Conference,
Which one?
and that would be Vegas and Mini.
I'm assuming you're thinking Vegas would
Really?
sweep,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why you guys like this Vegas team.
I don't. I could see that happening. Like that just seems like,
It's
well,
the
one,
Blue.
something that would happen to Minnesota, but
It,
two, also something that Vegas would do in the first
I
round, and then
mean,
everyone
yeah.
goes, "Oh, here we go again!"
I
Like
guess you're right. I shit on that team so hard last episode, you guys. People
you
are mad.
did, you
I'd
did.
probably say I'd probably say Carolina. I really think Jersey's kind of toast without
Yeah,
their without Hughes.
I
Yeah.
think that's probably would be my second pick after Winnipeg.
Now, which first round series do you think is most probable to go down as like by far the most entertaining one? Everybody agrees, like, yeah, that was the best first round series.
I really think it's Toronto, Ottawa.
It's
I
that or it's Tampa, Florida for me. Like
I
if
I got a feeling like we're gonna be talking about this Toronto Ottawa series for like a decade, being like, dude, that series.
Yeah, I
it's
got
like
Overtime,
remember
game
that time Brady
seven.
Kachuk broke into the Leafs locker room and like destroyed all
Yeah.
their shit? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's all the predictions. You'll see it on our brackets. We'll keep it all in sync. I have no idea how mine is going to age. Uh kind of hate my picks all of a sudden, but we appreciate everybody listening. Once again, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to have a ton of stuff going up on there during the course of the first round and the entire playoffs. And also go follow us on TikTok. A lot of stuff going on there as well. You guys got anything else?
Let's watch some fucking hockey.
Into the flood again.
If I had to
That's
bet, we'll
right.
probably be back with you guys maybe Tuesday of next week. We'll probably let the Caps get game one under their belt, and then we'll probably get the show on the road. A couple recordings a week with how busy things are about to get. So enjoy
That's
the
right.
first round. Happy playoff season, and enjoy.